a woman choosing serenity over perfection and a love that didn't end with scandal but with a silence that spoke volumes. After almost 20 years together, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's marriage has quietly reached its conclusion. The way it unfolded has left fans across the globe both shocked and reflective. On the surface, they appeared untouchable: red carpet, smiles, heartfelt tributes, and a pair of stars seemingly immune to Hollywood's relentless pressures. But when Nicole stepped forward after filing for divorce, one thing became undeniably clear. The fairy tale had ended, and the reality was far more intricate than anyone could imagine. For years, Nicole and Keith embodied the essence of elegance and resilience. Their paths crossed in 2005, and just a year later, they celebrated their love in a dreamy Sydney ceremony, quickly becoming one of Hollywood's most admired couples. Keith frequently credited Nicole for saving him from his darkest moments, while she described him as her anchor and sanctuary. From an outsider's view, their bond appeared unshakable, a model of enduring romance against all odds. Yet beneath the glittering events and public appearances, small fissures began forming long before the world noticed. Close acquaintances reveal that Nicole had quietly started pulling away over the past couple of years. This distance wasn't only emotional, it had become physical as well. While Keith spent more time touring and recording in Nashville, Nicole divided her time between London and Los Angeles, fully engrossed in her flourishing film career. The couple's once intertwined lives had gradually shifted into parallel ones, connected only through occasional FaceTime calls and staged public reunions. Those near Nicole say she genuinely attempted to preserve their union. She frequently traveled across continents, striving to maintain family stability and support their daughters. Yet, as one insider explained, love alone couldn't mend the gaps created by fame, long distance, and differing ambitions. The strain was subtle at first, almost invisible, but its weight grew steadily until it could no longer be ignored. Sources suggest the breaking point arrived earlier this year after repeated disputes centered on life priorities. Keith longed for a quieter life, more moments with family in Nashville, away from the constant glare of the industry. Nicole, on the other hand, felt a creative awakening, a personal renaissance that she couldn't ignore. After years of championing his career and raising their children, she was ready to reclaim her own path. That divergence in vision quietly escalated into a silent but profound conflict between them. When Nicole filed for divorce, it was neither dramatic nor chaotic. The action was deliberate, understated, and telling. She submitted the paperwork through her lawyer in Los Angeles, citing irreconcilable differences. There were no public accusations, no inflammatory statements, just a respectful recognition that a beautiful chapter had reached its natural conclusion. Friends close to Keith say he was caught off guard, genuinely believing reconciliation was possible. Reports indicate he wrote letters pleading for another chance and suggesting counseling. By that stage, however, Nicole's resolve was unwavering. She wasn't fueled by anger or resentment, rather she was embracing clarity, peace, and the next chapter of her life. She had reached her limit. Years of waiting for the right moment had passed, but the spark she once cherished never reignited. Those close to her described Nicole as heartbreakingly composed throughout the process. A friend revealed she wasn't seeking revenge, she was seeking peace. Even more remarkable was what she didn't pursue: spousal support. Despite their vast combined wealth and numerous properties, Nicole reportedly declined any financial claim from Keith. To those who truly know her, that decision spoke volumes. It wasn't about money. It was about closing a chapter on her own terms. She sought independence, freedom, and closure. In an industry where divorces frequently explode into public spectacle, Nicole's quiet determination felt almost revolutionary. Fans immediately took to social media, sending messages of admiration and support, applauding her grace under pressure. Yet those nearest to her say there were private nights filled with tears, introspection, and lingering guilt. Her love for Keith was genuine and in some ways still lingers. But love alone could no longer bridge the emotional distance that had grown over the years. Meanwhile, Keith has mostly kept to himself, channeling his emotions into his music. Insiders hint that his next album may be his most personal, yet inspired by the heartbreak and reflection of recent months. He continues to wear his wedding ring, publicly fueling speculation that he's not fully ready to let go. Meanwhile, Nicole has immersed herself in her daughters and her craft, taking on new film projects and reclaiming her identity. Close sources reveal she now feels lighter, more grounded, and fully in command of her life for the first time in years. One insider captured it perfectly. Nicole is finally living for herself. Fans remain divided, some mourn the end of one of Hollywood's most cherished couples, while others admire her courage to walk away before resentment could replace love. The reality of their story is neither scandalous nor malicious. It's about timing, about a love that simply couldn't survive two paths growing apart. Nicole and Keith's marriage was never about flawlessness. It was about effort, about commitment, about two people striving to make forever last. Yet sometimes forever means releasing your hold. For Nicole Kidman, choosing to let go might be the boldest, most empowering role she has ever played. In the weeks after the news broke, the world observed Nicole stepping into a fresh chapter of her life. Quietly yet with unmistakable strength. She offered no interviews, no public statements, no enigmatic social media posts. Instead, she let her silence convey everything: a story of resilience, dignity, and a new beginning. Paparazzi snapshots captured her strolling through Central Park in New York, daughters in tow, a faint smile on her face and her wedding ring noticeably absent. There was a calmness about her that felt unfamiliar to the public eye, but reassuring to those closest to her. She was no longer the woman clinging to Hollywood perfection beside Keith Urban on the red carpet. She was simply Nicole again, private, introspective, and slowly rebuilding her life. Insiders reveal that Nicole's inner circle had been quietly preparing for this transformation for months. Friends like Reese Witherspoon, Naomi Watts, and even Mel Street provided unwavering support, helping her navigate both emotional turbulence and practical challenges during the separation. One confidant mentioned that Nicole leaned heavily on meditation therapy and journaling. She was reflective, processing everything with patience and care. Her close friends say anger was absent. Instead, she grieved yet expressed gratitude for the life she shared with Keith and the opportunity to start anew. The divorce may have been straightforward legally, but emotionally it was far more complex. Nearly 2 decades of shared experiences, 2 daughters, multiple homes, countless memories could not simply be untangled with paperwork. Keith had often described Nicole as his anchor, the person who stabilized him during battles with fame and addiction. For Nicole, Keith had been a symbol of love after heartbreak, especially following her high-profile split from Tom Cruise. Together, they created something rare in Hollywood: longevity, trust, and shared dreams. But even the strongest foundations can shift when the people within them evolve in separate directions. Those close to Keith suggest the separation affected him more deeply than anticipated. He temporarily moved out of their Nashville home, staying in a friend's guest house while completing his upcoming album. Insiders hint the music is raw, heartfelt, and filled with themes of regret, longing, and lessons realized too late. He's not bitter, a source said, just shattered. Keith never imagined life without Nicole. She had been his muse, his center, and the heart of his family. While Keith processed the heartbreak through music, Nicole found solace in action. She immersed herself in work, signing 2 new film projects within months of the split. On set, she carried herself with quiet intensity, focused and professional, giving her craft her full attention. Colleagues noticed she wasn't weighed down by sadness. Instead, she exuded strength, turning past challenges into purpose. Yet the media wasn't willing to let the story fade. Every move she made was scrutinized, every photo dissected. But Nicole remained undeterred, letting her work, her presence, and her calm resilience speak louder than speculation. It was clear to those watching closely. She was moving forward, honoring the past by living fully in the present. Speculation ran rampant over the reasons behind their split, whispers of infidelity, ego clashes, and career envy. Yet none of these claims ever gained traction. Both Nicole and Keith remained composed, refusing to respond to gossip. Even when tabloids attempted to link Nicole to co-stars or portray Keith as the wounded artist, neither reacted. That quiet restraint only strengthened public admiration for them. It became evident this was never about scandal. It was about 2 people choosing dignity over drama. Behind closed doors, co-parenting took precedence. Friends reveal that despite the heartbreak, Nicole and Keith have prioritized protecting their daughters from the fallout. A family insider shared, no matter what happens between them, the girls always come first. They've reportedly built a schedule that balances filming, touring, and family time. It isn't flawless, but it provides peace, exactly what Nicole desired most. Privately, however, the emotional strain has been profound. Those who have known Nicole since her early years say she's rebuilt herself more than once. Her high-profile split from Tom Cruise had left deep scars. This time the hurt was quieter yet heavier. She wasn't a young woman starting over. She was a seasoned woman, gently letting go of a life she had carefully assembled over decades. But there's a key difference this time: acceptance. Nicole isn't chasing love or seeking validation. She's rediscovering her self-worth, one reflective morning at a time. Keith, by contrast, is still learning to navigate life without her constant presence. He has been spotted attending church more often, confiding in close friends, and honoring the sobriety promise he made to Nicole years ago. Music insiders suggest this next chapter could redefine Keith's artistry in powerful ways. Pain has always informed his songwriting, but now it's rawer, more human. He isn't just composing love songs anymore. He's exploring themes of lost forgiveness and the high cost of fame. His upcoming work may reveal a side of him that few have seen: vulnerable, reflective, and deeply personal. Meanwhile, Hollywood has begun reshaping Nicole's narrative. Once described as reserved or private, she is now celebrated for her emotional intelligence and quiet fortitude. Interviews she's given since filing for divorce have been subtle yet insightful. Her words measured, her tone calm and deliberate. She communicates strength without fanfare, showing a woman at peace with herself. When asked about change, Nicole offered a simple yet profound perspective. Sometimes you have to make peace with the idea that love evolves. It doesn't vanish. It simply transforms into a new shape. In those words, the world glimpsed a woman who has endured, reflected, and emerged stronger, quietly rewriting the rules of love loss and personal growth. That single line said it all. Nicole wasn't resentful. She wasn't shattered. She was evolving. Her career, once closely tied to her relationships, has entered a bold new chapter where she stands fully on her own. Her upcoming roles mirror that transformation: complex women, layered emotions, and stories of self-discovery. She's no longer performing to prove herself. One director noted she's performing to express something deeper. As months passed, both Nicole and Keith settled into separate rhythms. They continue to share quiet respect, occasionally exchanging texts about their daughters or family milestones. There's no animosity, just the kind of distance that stings yet allows healing. Friends believe time may eventually soften the edges, perhaps even paving the way for a renewed friendship. For now, they are learning to exist with the space between them. In a culture obsessed with spectacle, their breakup stands apart for its dignity. No public battles, no bitter claims, just two people who once loved deeply choosing to separate before love became unrecognizable. Perhaps that is the core lesson of their story. Sometimes letting go is the truest act of love. For Nicole, the end of her marriage signals not an ending, but the beginning of a quieter, authentic chapter. She no longer seeks to maintain a flawless image or a Hollywood fairy tale. Instead, she lives with honesty, embracing even the moments that sting. For Keith, the ache of loss may fuel his most profound artistic creations yet. Though the world lost a golden couple, what remains is something just as compelling, raw, human, and deeply relatable. As months turned into seasons, the public spotlight on their divorce gradually dimmed. Tabloids moved on to news stories and gossip faded into the background. Behind closed doors, however, both Nicole and Keith continued to navigate the quieter aftermath, the part of an ending that rarely meets public view. For Nicole, this meant rediscovering life alone, not lonely, but free. She spent long mornings at her Nashville home with her daughters, cooking breakfast, reading scripts, and leaving her phone untouched. Friends describe her finding serenity in small routines and the stillness she hadn't felt in years. She no longer needed to play the perfect spouse or the unwavering support. She could simply exist as herself, imperfections and all. Professionally, this newfound independence became evident on set. Directors noted a striking change in her performances and emotional authenticity, a raw honesty that captivated everyone. Nicole Kidman was no longer just acting. She was living her truth and channeling every lesson, heartbreak, and triumph into her craft. A film critic once described Nicole's latest performance as portraying a woman unafraid of her own silence. That phrase resonated widely because it reflected her real-life journey. She now embraced endings, change, and self-rediscovery without fear. Even her public appearances carried a new authenticity. At one premiere, she arrived alone in a simple black gown, smiling softly at cameras. There was no sorrow, no defiance, only serene composure. In Hollywood, such calm is a rare and precious luxury. Keith, meanwhile, sought solace in his first love, music. His newest songs told stories the public had never heard before. Gone were the catchy, uplifting anthems. In their place came introspective ballads exploring time, faith, and the quiet spaces between people. Fans instantly recognized the shift. Lyrics about losing one's anchor, watching a loved one drift, and wishing for earlier understanding hit deeply and personally. The album quickly became Keith's most emotional work to date, receiving quiet but meaningful acclaim. During a live show in Australia, he paused before one song, simply saying, "This one's for anyone who's had to let go with love." The audience went silent. It wasn't an apology, but an acknowledgement of pain, growth, and truth, a tribute to what had been lost and learned. Despite their separation, Nicole and Keith never completely severed ties. They continued to coordinate birthdays, holidays, and milestones for their daughters. Occasionally, they were seen together at school events, private dinners, or quietly exchanging hugs backstage at Keith's concerts. These moments weren't about reconciliation, they were about respect, a recognition that family doesn't end with divorce, it transforms. Friends say that the two now share a connection deeper than ever before, a mutual acceptance that doesn't require validation, only peace. In interviews, both remained composed. Keith spoke gently about change and gratitude, while Nicole framed this chapter as a lesson in grace. Neither placed blame nor sent veiled messages. Their maturity in an industry obsessed with spectacle made their story stand out, showing that dignity still carries power even in heartbreak. Behind the scenes, Nicole began exploring fresh creative paths. She took on producing roles, mentored emerging actresses, and carefully selected projects to prioritize her daughter's teenage years. Friends noticed a renewed joy in her life. She was no longer chasing accolades or approval. Instead, she embraced life deliberately, letting it unfold naturally, rather than controlling every moment. One close friend said she was learning to trust the quiet, and for Nicole, that was everything. Keith, too, started redefining his own sense of happiness. He focused on music, personal growth, and moments of reflection. Both were forging separate, intentional paths while honoring the love, history, and family they had shared. Though the world had witnessed the end of a golden couple, what remained was a story of grace, resilience, and human truth, one that would resonate far beyond the headlines. Keith returned to his Maine Nashville home, reconnected with old friends, and began spending more time away from the stage. His focus shifted from fame to family, from the noise of the industry to the authenticity of everyday life. Reports suggest he even took up painting, a hobby Nicole had once encouraged, using it as a form of meditation, a way to fill the quiet without losing himself in it. When asked in an interview if he missed being married, he smiled softly and said, "I miss the moments, not the marriage, but I'm grateful for both." That line resonated widely, not for its sorrow, but for its candor and reflection. As months turned into a year, the story of their separation evolved. What had begun as heartbreak became a tale of personal rebirth. Nicole stepped into her own power while Keith rediscovered purpose and meaning. Neither of them had fallen apart. Instead, they emerged stronger, wiser, and more grounded than before. Fans who had mourned the loss of one of Hollywood's golden couples now admired the grace with which they handled it. In one of her rare public reflections, Nicole said something that struck a chord. "Love doesn't always endure as we hope, but that doesn't mean it has failed. It simply transforms. What matters is how you carry it forward." Her words summed up their story perfectly. The love between her and Keith hadn't vanished, it had matured, grown peaceful, and perhaps become even more genuine. Their journey became a quiet lesson in parting with respect, in loving without resentment, and in recognizing that two people can care deeply, yet not be destined to stay together forever. It's a truth few learned gracefully, but they lived it publicly with dignity. Today, Nicole and Keith stand as two individuals who shared an extraordinary love, and now hold a deep respect for what it gave them. They are no longer life partners, but they remain entwined through history, memories, and lessons learned. Even in endings, light can remain a reminder that love doesn't always fade in chaos. Sometimes it transforms quietly and beautifully. Nicole has found calm in solitude, embracing new beginnings with an open heart. Keith has transformed heartbreak into art, his music now carrying the weight of lessons learned from love. Both have evolved not as adversaries, but as two souls who once walked side by side and learned to let go with grace. In the end, their story is not about endings or scandal, but transformation, proof that love doesn't disappear when vows fade. It changes, softens, and teaches. Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's shared chapter will live on quietly, profoundly, and beautifully beyond the spotlight. Please subscribe my channel for more unique and attractive videos.